It's McGraw in the morning on the Big 550 KTRS.
748 here on the Big 550 KTRS. We're trying to get a hold of Don Locks, a distributor and president and CEO of Locks Co., which is a company here in town which distributes alcohol, including, has anybody heard of Pearl Vodka? That's pretty big, right? Pearl Vodka, that's Lux Co. Don Lux is going to be joining us here in a bit. He is speaking out against Senate Bill 365 and House Bill 759. It's legislation that some say would significantly alter the way liquor franchises operate in Missouri. Some say that it would make it nearly impossible for liquor suppliers to switch wholesalers. So once you are with a wholesaler, you would not be allowed to switch wholesalers, which makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. They're saying that it is a monopoly protection that would drive up the costs and so on and so forth. So we're going to check in with Don Locks here in just a minute. This was the same legislation that David Stokes was talking about on on Monday, where tightening up the status quo, meaning you have to have a three-tier system. You have the maker, you have the distributor, and then you have the retailer. And so very few distributors distribute most of the alcohol that is being produced in the state. All these laws go back to 1939 when Prohibition was repealed. So that's sort of where all of this sort of comes from. But that's sort of the interesting anecdote about all of this, and they want to change it. Most of the states are allowed to do their own alcohol laws. So with that being said, as a primer, Don Lux, president and CEO of Luxco. Don, welcome to Big 550 KTRS.
Hey, good morning, McGraw. Sorry about the hoarse voice, but it was a late night at a Blues game last night.
Certainly understandable. We understand that you did your part to garner the victory. Talk about this legislation. What would it do for your business?
Well, I'm sure you've seen much of the press that's come out, and in general, us as suppliers and brand owners are opposed to any type of franchise legislation that would limit, that would basically grant our distributors the license to use our brands in whatever state they operate, infinitum, regardless of performance and meeting our pricing standards and so on and so forth. So it can really hurt our ability to compete freely in the market. It hurts our retailers because it limits their access. They would have to buy our brands from a certain distributor, regardless of that distributor's service levels and so on, which in the end means higher prices for Missouri consumers and lower service levels for retailers. So we don't think that's good overall, not only for our brands but for the free market.
Don, explain to me, Don, how this works. You have Pearl Vodka, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's just take Pearl Vodka as an example. Do you make Pearl Vodka?
We do.
Okay,
so the way the liquor industry works in Missouri and every other state, when Prohibition was repealed, the federal government granted the states rights to regulate the wholesale of beverage alcohol within its borders. So there's what's called a three-tier system. So we make the product, we bottle it, we sell to a licensed wholesaler in any state, whether it's Missouri or Arkansas and so on and so forth, and then that wholesaler then sells into the retail trade, and that's effectively how it works in one way or another in every state in the union, and they're all
okay.
All of the wholesalers are separately licensed.
Okay, so you can't make the Pearl Vodka and then go to the local liquor store or the local bar and sell it yourself. You have to send it to a distributor.
Absolutely.
Okay, so what would this law specifically do to change the current system?
So the way the current system works, there is a franchise law in place let me back up. What the new law would do basically is say that a distributor that we appointed to sell our brands would in fact own a license on those brands and own that license infinitum, regardless of performance. The way it works now is we appoint distributors and they sell our product, and if we are not happy with what they're doing, then there's a free market where we could actually move our brands to another wholesaler if we wanted to, and various distributors currently are exchanging lines often, where brands move back and forth.
Right. So if I have a wholesaler and I'm not happy with the wholesaler, or for whatever reason, I can then take it to somebody else, thus creating competition. And we all know that competition is good ultimately for the marketplace.
Exactly.
You're saying, Don, that this law, once you decide to go with a wholesaler and a distributor, you would never be allowed to change wholesalers?
That's the way this new law reads, yes.
So there would be no incentive as a wholesaler to service the account.
Well, yes, I would agree, and that's one of the big reasons why we're opposed to it. We think the free market creates an efficient market and incentive to compete, which means investing in businesses and jobs and trying to make the most efficient business model possible. So you keep the brands like Pearl Vodka or Smirnoff Vodka or Captain Morgan Rum or whatever it might be.
Right. In Missouri, we've seen, have we not, a rather large increase in craft beers, locally owned beers, wines, spirits, things like that. Have we not?
We have, and pretty much consistent with every state across the U.S.
And so this is a bigger story than is getting is people are talking about, because with all this explosion, if it's a situation where if you're a beer vendor or a beer maker and you pick a wholesaler, you better pick the right one, because if you don't pick the right one, you'll never be allowed to change.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And which is for a smaller distiller or brewer or winery, it's a little bit of a scary effort, because they could appoint some small distributor who may be very good, but who doesn't have the expanse of, say, expanding them statewide if and when they grow their business, but yet they would be locked in with that wholesaler.
When you talk to the elected officials who are in charge of voting on this, it seems like they're all for the small businessman. You're a small businessman. You're dead set against this. What do they tell you?
Well, there's been a lot of confusion over what the real issues are. The people that are for this have spent a lot of time lobbying. And so what we're trying to do is just explain to people what the real story is, and how the wholesale business works, and that jobs are not the issue here. Some people are saying, well, if this law does not get voted in, then some national wholesalers will come in and buy the local distributors or move their lines. But if they do, the jobs are the jobs. You still need people to sell the product. You still need to load it on a truck out of your warehouse and deliver it to a retailer. So the jobs stay here. And so we're just trying to educate everybody, and I think most people are now understanding what the real issue is. And actually a bill similar to this was voted in last year, but I'm sorry, I thought I lost you.
No, go ahead.
Was voted in, but did not get signed. The law was not signed because the governor basically said, we are not in favor of a free market bill like this, of an anti-market free market bill.
Hey, Don,
and he just he vetoed it.
Don, explain to me. This is fascinating. I know I'm short on time. If I make pasta and I want to sell pasta to restaurants, I don't need to go to a wholesaler. I can sell it direct to the restaurants.
That is correct.
What's the benefit, or what's the reason why you make alcohol? Why can't you sell it straight to the restaurants?
The reason that the government did what they did is because they wanted to control how beverage alcohol was sold. And they were worried when Prohibition was over that organized crime and so on would try to take over the business nationally. So they made it so that the states could regulate within their borders, so that they could regulate the revenue coming in and out of the state, and prevent the product from going across state lines. And
if you make alcohol, you're not allowed to own the wholesaling, right?
That is correct. There are a few people that are grandfathered around the country, but for the most part, that is correct.
Right. So you make Pearl Vodka, you can't then own the distributorship. Can
Correct.
You own the end product? Can you own a liquor store?
No.
Interesting.
I'm not allowed to do that.
Don, what are you asking people to do? Get a hold of their legislator? What are you asking the public to do?
Exactly. We're just asking them to read what we're writing and listen to what we're saying, contact whomever they can to let them know to not vote for this, because it's bad for Missouri in the end.
Don, website, place for people to find more information.
We have a coalition, and I am looking for the document here. I'm sorry. It's called the Missourians for Fair Competition, and we just formed the coalition, and I believe there is a website. MissouriForFairCompetition.com? I believe so, yes, sir. MissouriansForFairCompetition.com.
Don Lux, President and CEO of Luxco. Don, thanks for your time.
Thank you very much. Have a great day, and go Blues.